And former President Dahl, congratulations. Looking forward to having some productive conversation. And it was just a real joy to be able to vote for you because of what that beast did to me, knifing me in the back like that. So anyway, welcome back, Mr. President.
Thank you so much.
Now from Times Square, it's That Kevin Show.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be That Donald Show. We don't have that, so we have That Kevin Show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Straight ahead, the scariest war you've not heard of. Sean Prescott and James Young. Hispanic women did what? Judy Pino weighs in. A Trans-Siberian tradition. Al Piterelli joins us. Sketch comedy from the Babylon Bee and Lindsay Ell back in the spotlight. And now, from Times Square, fresh off his nomination for Assistant Secretary of the Department of Government Efficiency, here's
Thank you for being here, Kevin McCullough. I couldn't be happier than to have you in tow with us. An exciting week, no doubt. Tonight, by the way, we've got some really incredible stuff for you. We're going to introduce you to yet one more of the fantastic contributors from the Independent Women's Forum. Judy Pino is going to be with us. We're going to break down everything that happened with the Latino vote and why it is so significant that going forward, the Republicans hold that coalition as they move forward. But I'm going to also probably scare you to death tonight, because there is a thing coming that I'm not sure I knew anything about. In fact, I don't think I'd ever heard of it until just recently. It's called Q-Day. It is going to be what quantum computers can do to our national security, our corporate business, banking, personal secrets. There's not going to be a secret left on planet Earth once quantum computing starts doing what it can do by way of it can slice through encryption like a hot knife through butter. And so we've got some guys that are doing something about it with a company called Scope Technologies that are going to join us. I'm looking forward to that conversation. Scares me to death that there will not be a single secret left on planet Earth if you don't take proper precautions when it comes to quantum computing. We're going to explain that threat to you coming up. I have to start, though, with what a crazy week following the election we've just concluded. And I don't mean crazy bad. I mean crazy awesome. When you look at the appointment by appointment by appointment of what Donald Trump has done with his cabinet, and you may not like them all. There may be things about some of them that you'd like to be a little bit different. But there's one thing you cannot argue. And that is that this is a group of people that are untalented and without any passion. And what you haven't seen from cabinet members in quite a while are guys that are dedicated, devoted, and ready to launch the day that their job starts. You're talking about young talent that are ready to go. And whether it's Zeldin at EPA, Gates at Justice, Hegseth at Defense, whether it's Stefanik at the UN, whether it's Gabbard at the national security apparatus, it does not matter where they are. These are people that have their eyes on the target. They know exactly what they're there to do, and they're going to go get it done. And I find it funny that the other side is now so apoplectic about just the mere possibility that bureaucrats are going to do something in their position, that they're falling out all over themselves. And they're kind of showing how stupid they are. Take a look at The View reacting to our Pete. Take a look.
Is this the guy who's qualified to make decisions about the most powerful military in the world, who clearly does not know anything about the military?
You know, and also I feel insulted. I'm a morning TV host, and I've been here the longest.
Yes.
Where's my ambassadorship to Italy, Donald? Was it something I said?
Beyond what he's saying just about women, the scary part is the Secretary of Defense is the highest ranking member of the federal cabinet, and there is a budget of $841 billion. It's the largest government agency. It operates 4,800 sites in over 160 countries, and as someone who right now, we stand here with a country that has a lot of turmoil in the Middle East, in Russia and Ukraine, even in Asia with China, it makes me more than a little worried that you're picking someone who has, he served for 5 or 6 years. He was mid-ranking, never has worked in the government. And you can say the government's bureaucratic and get an outside person that's going to clean it up, but it hasn't been cleaned up yet. And therefore you have to understand the place you're going into to operate it at its most efficient capacity. So it's alarming.
What is particularly ironic about those people is that they don't know anything about what they're opining on. And to say, as that last woman did, that he was in the military for 4 or 5. He's still in the military. He still serves in the reserves. He was slated to work the Biden inaugurational day and got bounced because someone saw the Christian cross on his chest on his social media and spread a story about him being a white supremacist. And he got singled out and taken down. This is a dude who gets it. Multiple tours of duty, 2 Bronze Stars. This guy is no slouch. So I don't know who these women think that they are, but they know nothing. And Joy Behar, you're not getting anything on the taxpayer dime. You don't, forget it. But Whoopi and all, it's just ridiculous. But they're the ones out there saying this stuff. And they're trying to say it about all of the cabinet members because they know that this is a group of people that are going to go get stuff done. Mike Huckabee going to Israel is a genius. There is not one more staunch supporter of Israel on the planet. And he is going to be the ideal point person on all things in the Middle East. I can't wait for this group to be empowered and turned loose. And I'm really loving the fact that you got comparisons being made with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to the Bobs from Office Space. Yeah, what exactly do you do here? That question needs to be asked of every person in every department across the entirety of government, and we need to fire the people that don't have a legitimate purpose for being there. We need to align all of government to the priorities of what the country needs. And if they don't serve that purpose, if they don't in some way perform properly what the purpose of their position is to be there in terms of how they're helping and benefiting the American people, then they've got to go. They've got to go. All right. More on that as we go through the days to come, I'm sure. And can you imagine this? Can you imagine Tulsi Gabbard now being in charge of all the people that were spying on her, or Matt Gaetz now being in charge of all the people that were trumping up things against him? Can you imagine the fear in the knees that are rattling in government offices right now? It's a beautiful thing. Hey, speaking of beautiful things, have you registered for the Sugarfina holiday advent calendars? We're going to make a draw. We're going to do a drawing on the last day of November and announce the winner. But the beautiful traditional advent calendar that they have, and by the way, the lovely bride just got these for our kids, and she got both. She got the Hello Kitty and she got the traditional. They are both stocked full of candy, and they are the most beautiful advent calendars you've ever seen. Sugarfinaholiday.com to register for your chance to win. Sugarfinaholiday.com. We're going to draw it on the last day of November, and we're going to rush you the calendar so that you can enjoy it this Christmas season. Sugarfinaholiday.com. Sugarfinaholiday.com is where you go to get that. Sugarfinaholiday.com. Just go and sign up for your chance to win. Also, if you go there, sugarfinaholiday.com, you're going to get a 20% off coupon for anything you might want to buy too. So that works out well. SugarFinaHoliday.com. Get your 20% off. Register for your chance to win the Advent calendar and then have loads of fun. We got a big show for you coming up. We've got the guys from Scope Technologies are going to be here. Judy Pino is going to be here from the Independent Women's Voice. We've got sketch comedy from the Babylon Bee back in the house tonight. And in the spotlight, she's back, one of our reigning queens, Lindsay Ell with Tune Song. Stick around. It's a lot of fun.
Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's that Kevin Show. And as we are looking at a obviously new country, kind of after the election and a new economy, there are some looming threats that really never got addressed in the entire presidential cycle. In the tech world in particular, there are some very frightening things that are just on our horizon that I am not exactly positive anyone has taken the time to address, but my next guests have, and I'm very excited to have them. They are the CEO and CTO of a group called Scope AI, and we're going to learn more a little bit about this all the way around. James Young is the CEO, and Sean Prescott is the CTO. Gentlemen, it's good to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Kevin. I'm hearing stuff about quantum intelligence and quantum storms and the threat to our security and our safety and our secrets because of quantum intelligence. And I've never heard this term before. I just started hearing about it in recent weeks. And for people that are uninitiated that are watching us or listening to us, break it down for us. Sean, you're the tech officer. What is quantum intelligence and why is it such a threat?
Well, quantum security is the next paradigm in the world of how computers are built and how they secure our daily information and daily lives, right? Add in the AI aspect and the information flow becomes, autonomous in a way that we can't predict. So our task as a company and our task as people for the people is to make sure that our data and our lives remain safe. And that is what we do as a company. Well,
I want people to have a real clear picture of what this threat is. So break it down for us. What is the threat that is out there and how does it put our secrets at risk?
So the current computer world, internet world, basically anything and any device that you interact with, they're built on, what is called deterministic encryption, deterministic randomness. Sounds like a fancy big word, but what it is basically a series of zeros and ones that any computer can process. Now, with the emergence of quantum computers, especially, from state actors with virtually infinite funding, this kind of threat of building a new type of computer, aka a quantum computer, will be able to slice through the established cryptographic frameworks of any system that you're working with today, right? So this paradigm of totally different computers cutting through encryption like a hot knife through butter, that is essentially the threat that we're looking at. And we're calling it the Y2Q problem, just like we had 25 years ago with the Y2K. Just in this case, we don't know when it's going to happen, but we do know that it will happen for sure.
It's not. And from my understanding of it, and again, I'm a layman. I'm not a tech guy, but it is almost unstoppable, is what I'm understanding, because the quantum aspect of how the intelligence continues to learn, test, try, and solve is almost blink of the eye type fast and never gives up. Like it's relentless. Am I oversimplifying it?
I don't think you're oversimplifying it. In fact, in the securities world, the companies that run security penetration tests and security analysis. And this is not just companies, but also the governments. They very deeply use AI currently to help, find security issues, find other kind of, let's say, edge cases where they can get into a system. And that is just becoming more and more prevalent in, with ChatGPT and the other AI systems that you can run locally and privately now, on standard servers that you can run in your basement. So the big question here is, how do we know that the threat is so imminent and or has already happened? Unfortunately, this is not going to be something that's going to be, proclaimed that there's a country or company that has quantum superiority. It's just going to be happening, and slowly but surely our privacy is going to be deteriorating without us actually even knowing. Right?
Again, I want to go slow here so that people really understand what we're talking about. But this threat is on our national security level and our national defenses. It's on our corporate private sector business level. Yeah. Does it come all the way down to the consumer? Are my secrets safe just because I have a security system on my laptop or my portable devices?
Well, and I'll jump in there, Kevin, as I'm
James Young, CEO. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm certainly technical, though not at the depth of cryptography expert and quantum computing expert like Sean. There's very few people in the world, a relatively small group that are. So from just speaking to those that aren't familiar with this topic at all, ultimately, all of our encryption and security protocols that we come to trust, our passwords, our encryption, everything to do with what keeps us safe and all of our information safe, from an individual and our photos and emails all the way up to enterprise and governments. Ultimately, the weak point in encryption is the entropy, which Sean will get into and talk a little bit more, which is essentially the random number used at the basis of all encryption. The power of quantum computing can break through that weak point like a hot knife through butter. So as far as who is at risk, ultimately, and not to get into real hyperbole here, but it is reality where everything is at risk. The fundamental way that we secure data and encrypt things will be able to be broken by the incoming quantum computing storm. So yes, when does that become risk? When does that risk become reality? It is becoming more and more reality already, and it will affect everyone, right from the individual all the way up to the government agency.
Yeah. I would just encourage people that are listening or watching to think about when you first heard the word ChatGPT, how long ago that was. Wasn't that long ago. And that was kind of like the breakthrough in public consciousness, right? ChatGPT, AI technology, it's here. People are having conversations. You heard about reporters. It was a matter of days until you had major platforms all adopting a version of ChatGPT that would go along with their social media platform, their financial software that you were banking online with, how you could buy your groceries from your local online retailer, et cetera. In other words, the artificial intelligence quotient immediately changed everything on the planet in terms of computing. What I understand both of you to be telling me now is that quantum computing is going to be like that, but faster in terms of how much it impacts and how devastating it could be upon arrival. And I'm guessing, James, by your statement just then, nobody's going to be really advertising when they decide to launch some sort of attack on encryption and trying to break through these things. We're going to find out about the power of this stuff kind of on the very unpleasant surprise side of things. Am I right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And, I imagine a lot of people listening to this will, do their own research and look into, the plethora of articles that are out there on the impending quantum storm or Q-Day as many dub it. And what they'll see is a very wide range of this could be happening now to, okay, we have 5+ years or something like that. But again, the only way we will know is, unfortunately, due to catastrophic events, very likely, because again, there will be no announcements that the bad actors and the state actors have this power.
Really good criminals never announce what they're going to do in advance, nor do the really good terrorists, the really good bad guys.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, that Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back, friends. A little bit of a dismal discussion we just had, because if you were listening carefully, you suddenly understood that there is no secret on planet Earth that is any longer safe. None. Not a national defense secret, not a banking secret, not a proprietary technology secret, not a biopharmaceutical secret that's safe. Nothing is safe. Your hard drive's not safe. The things you think nobody knows about your phone and your iCloud, they're not safe because of the impending quantum storm, as we've been discussing with the CEO and CTO of Scope Technologies Corporation. Then they have two divisions. They have one that focuses on AI, and they have one that's focusing on the quantum issue, and that's what we're discussing here. James Young and Sean Prescott, thank you for taking time to be with us, and thanks for breaking it down for the everyday person, because this is one of the scariest things I've been warned about, and it's hard to surprise me. As you can imagine, talking about the top headlines every day of what's going on, I'm pretty hardened. When this was first put in front of me, I thought this is one of the most frightening things I've ever seen. And to that end, Sean, let me come back to you, kind of the tech pinhead here. You really thought this through all the way through. Is there a way to defend against this? And is that what Scope Technologies Corporation is doing? And how does it work? Can you take us into some of the granular, A checks B kind of thing?
Sure, happy to, and thanks for that great question. So, yes, there are things that you can do, but to preface that, we have to understand when is this threat going to take place and how is this attack going to happen so that we can properly prepare and protect. So there is a very clear idea that even if your data would be technically secure today, if it gets stolen, it can always be harvested now and decrypted later. So even if you think, well, the quantum threat isn't here for another few years, if your data is in the wrong hands, it will be cracked eventually. So you need to prepare now and secure it. That's where we come in. All right.
So what's the defense? What's the best defense against this kind of unrelenting enemy that has no ability to tire out and no ability to wear down?
Yeah, we have the antidote to that, right? So if you're thinking of the system that is going to be cracking these kind of keys and the established passwords and algorithms, we have the antidote. And the antidote is non-deterministic entropy. That is what our product is. What we can do, which makes us unique, is we can generate keys that are quantum resilient so that today's computers and also the computers of the future cannot break through it, as we've explained. So that in itself, and the way that we provide that service to various clients of various sizes and agencies, that is our key solution.
Well, okay. You said a mouthful there, and I just want to help people understand. The reason that regular encryption is useless against the quantum technology is because it does go through a kind of limitless ability to eliminate options until it finds a solution. The random quotient that Scope Technologies Corp is developed is what keeps changing and moving the target so that AI can't land on it. Well, let me ask you this, just being the devil's advocate, is a stop clock right twice per day? And if so, are we talking about once out of trillions of options, or what's the dynamic there?
That's actually a very interesting analogy. What I like to do, maybe if I can just take a quick paragraph to explain the difference between how randomness, and therefore being so important, is generated in traditional computers, the ones that you use today, and how it's generated in, let's say, a way that is quantum resilient. If we go back, just to simplify, what we're talking about here is deterministicness, as in, can we predict the output? If we can predict something, then quantum computers will cut right through it. If it is not predictable, being it is truly random, right? That's what we're looking for, is true randomness. Then quantum computers cannot break through it. And so The old computers, I'm talking 70s and 80s, if you would ask it to generate a random number, and it would just spit out some random number, 1 to a million, whatever. If you rewound the time on that computer to that exact moment and generate a random number, it would spit out the same number. Oh. It's deterministic, right? So that pattern and sequence is what we've changed in a way that you cannot predict and therefore crack it with quantum computing power ultimately.
All right. Sean, you've explained it well. And for non-tech people, I think this is helpful. I've never seen a problem this big, friends, and I've never seen a solution that I feel like is more kind of custom made to really, in terms of just precision, get to the heart of it. And I'm grateful that Scope Technologies Corp is there. James Young, Sean Prescott, thanks for your visit. Thanks for being with us. And maybe we'll talk to you again soon. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
You got it. Kevin McCullough coming back from New York. Don't go away.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Well, if you have been anywhere near, well, welcome back to Times Square, first of all. Glad to have you with us. It's That Kevin Show. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you. If you've been anywhere near the Christmas season in recent years, you've no doubt heard my next guest's riffs and sometimes crunchiness and sometimes soaring solos and everything else. He plays guitar, and he does it pretty well. For a little group called the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, he's one of the 3 co-founders. Al Piterelli, thank you for being with us. So glad to have you. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. The Trans-Siberian Orchestra is celebrating a big year this year.
Yeah,
it's the 20th anniversary of the Lost Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
You've had 20 million people come see you in concert. And it's 20 years that you guys have been doing this. When you were just starting out there in Joliet, Illinois, did you have any idea that it was going to take you to every major arena on the planet?
No, it's 30 years ago this coming February that I was asked by TSO's founder, Mr. Paul O'Neill, to come to a studio in New York City. And he had this project he was working on, this idea. And he wanted a bit more of a cinematic approach musically from a guitar player than the normal, that person, if you will.
Yeah.
And he knew that I worked with a lot of theatrical styles over the years, a lot of film scoring, a lot of jingle writing. I was Alice Cooper's musical director back in the 80s.
Wow.
He was one of the first artists, I think, to present rock and roll in a theatrical manner.
Gotcha.
So unbeknownst to me at the time, it was almost like I was being handed curriculum to study for the big test that was coming up with me, working for Paul O'Neill. And I remember walking in the studio and him saying, I just want to create great art. I'm not interested in commerce. I don't care about anything else. If we can create a great art form, he'll be happy. And I was like, that's a pretty bold statement. Fine. He put the fingers up.
I've known a lot of people in the music business. It's also a little bit of phony baloney, because ultimately, if you don't make money, you can't keep doing what you want to do.
Yeah, well, he had a pretty good career up until then. He's doing a lot of producing, a lot of songwriting. I had a good run of it so far. And this was pretty much a one-off gathering for he and I in the studio just to bring this one song to life, which was to become Christmas Eve Saturday of 12/24. And we finished that session. I'm like, dude, you nailed it. That's amazing. I don't know if anybody's ever going to hear it, because think about what was going on in 1995 music, on the radio.
Right.
But you fast forward to December 95, and it became the #1 requested song in America overnight. We had a hit. And you got a hit on your hands when talk radio's playing it. That's how big this thing got. So I said, well, that was great. We had something on the radio. He goes, yeah, but I'm going to write a record around that one song, and we're going to call it the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. You with me? I'm like, forever, brother. He was my best friend. He's my big brother. And I said, whatever you need, I'll sit in that chair next to you, and let's ride this one out. I didn't think it was going to go 30 years, and who knows how many more years in the future. But like you just said earlier, I feel like Willy Wonka. Somebody bought the 20 millionth ticket recently. Somebody's in possession of that. And what that represents, as Paul said from day one, when we played our first show in Philadelphia, I think it was the Tower Theater back in '99, every ticket sold, he was going to take $1 and put it back in the community.
Oh, wow.
Now, that's who he was as a human. Just an incredible, gracious, loving person. And he goes, we're going to do that forever. You do the math, he did make a change in the world, and I'm very proud of him.
Well, that's one of the things that TSO is known for. You guys have done a lot of philanthropy in addition to your work. I think some people from the music standpoint would say, but it's just a Christmas show. So what do you do the rest of the year?
Get ready for the next Christmas show. It's kind of a year-long process. I mean, we finish up, I'll fly home New Year's Eve day.
Okay.
And then I'll have New Year's Eve or our Christmas Eve with my wife and my daughters. My other sons will fly in, hopefully, and the family will get together New Year's Day for our Christmas Day. And then take a week or two to catch our breath and whatever. And then by mid-January, we're back at the drawing board. It takes all year to figure out how can we make it bigger, better, slicker, sonically, visually, emotionally, the story, what story do we want to do? And, you know, we all get either together at the office in New York City or our studio down in Tampa, or we'll do Zoom conferences and try to scratch our heads. And I always compare it to a Super Bowl team. You know, Kansas City Chiefs won last year. Congratulations, well deserved. You got the ring, you have the party, world champions. I promise you, Andy Reid was thinking about next year, how are we going to do this again? It's not a guarantee. It's never a guarantee that we're going to have a great tour. We try to work really hard all year long to make it just better. Because I have half the audience is what I consider my repeat offenders. They come back every year.
That's one of the things
better
that
show.
if you talk to TSO fans, that's one of the things that they make a big point of telling you is that it's become a Christmas tradition for a lot of people to go. If you've never been, friends, and you're just joining us, it's lots of lasers and lights and all kinds of spectacular visuals, but it's also very melodic arena rock that puts you in the Christmas mood in a spectacular way. The shows themselves tell stories. They are, in essence, operas in many respects.
Exactly.
But there is a magic to them that is not that of Lincoln Center with folded hands and perfect vibrato. What do you attribute the magic of the TSO story to?
There's a wonderful quote I read by Leonard Bernstein not too long ago. Great art should be accessible and not ordinary. So if you put that in Paul O'Neill world, the stories that he'd written over the years were very, very accessible. I can insert my life or my circumstance into Paul's story, and it becomes about me. But nothing about his stories, nothing about the music, nothing about the show, if you will, is ordinary. And he really balanced that fine line with not being overbearing or too much and not enough. So in one of the sentiments from one of the stories that's one of my favorites is, you know, missing somebody. You know, a teenage girl runs away from home and the father's missing her. He's like frantic, I want my baby girl back, you know, so on and so forth. Somebody passes on in your life. There's always an empty chair at your dining room table. None of us are impervious to that, unfortunately. That's life. And it seems that you get to the holidays and it's a little more obvious of that empty chair. Or in the case of the lost Christmas Eve, it's never too late to do something positive or to undo something wrong. And everybody can relate to that. So that's why the story, like you said, the opera, like I you know, if I'm listening to an opera, I'm being moved musically, but I haven't got a clue what they're saying in Italian.
Right.
You know, but in this story, everybody's going, oh my God, that just happened to me. And you got 14,000 other people that are sharing that same.
I'm not
sentiment.
crying, you're crying. Al Piterelli, congratulations on 20th anniversary of Lost Christmas Eve.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him from as Voxtradamus.
Of course, that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still
Still to come. Hispanic women did what in the election of 24? Judy Pino from the Independent Women's Forum. Ending slavery in our time, Todd Chatman revisits us. Sketch comedy from Satan as he gives his press conference. And back in the spotlight, it's Lindsay Ell. And now, from Times Square, don't call him Tulsi or Lee or Governor or Elise or Pete. But he's already a cabinet member in our hearts. Here's the Kevin!
Aw, that's incredibly kind. You want me to be a cabinet member? That would be kind of cool. I would have a hard time picking which department I would most want to help though, because, you know, I'm naturally a lover of the military, so national defense would be good. I love Governor Huckabee, so if I could work with him in Israel, that would be awesome. And I think it would just be fun to be a fly on the wall in any of the offices that Elon and Vivek are going to go visit. Because you know when they show up, people are going to start sweating and knees knocking. You remember that? Remember that scene from Office Space? You know when the Bobs. You know, what exactly do you do here anyway? Yes, we'd like to have a better accounting of what you do. I think there's going to be a lot of those like deer in the headlight looks from people facing them in the very near future. And hey, how could that be bad for our country? I don't think it could be. Anyway, got to get to the news. Here we go.
For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough. Breaking news, another MSNBC anchor has announced their departure from the X platform, the platform formerly known as Twitter. This follows a string of departures from outlets like MSNBC anchors and former MSNBC anchors and whatever Don Lemon is now considered to be. Even news organizations like MSNBC and the Guardian newspaper have announced such intentions for their entire operation. Assignment Desk Weekend thought it was interesting that so many of the outlets making the announcements were doing so. Their rationale all seemingly in line with the idea that the platform is in some way not tolerant of differing points of view and opinion. And then it dawned on us that they all were announcing their departures from X because no one looking at them on X had even noticed that they were gone. Fresh off winning the Electoral College by 312 votes, the popular vote expanding his majority in the House and flipping the U.S. Senate, President-elect Trump paid a visit to his old residence this week, the White House. He was greeted by the most prominent U.S. resident to have voted for him, good old smiling Scranton Joe.
And former president, thank you, Donald, congratulations. Thank you. And looking forward to having like we said, smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So welcome back.
In light of Trump's win and the announcement of Matt Gaetz as the new Attorney General, Special Counsel Jack Smith has announced his intention to resign. In fact, he was spotted holding onto the undercarriage of a vendor's work truck leaving the DOJ at the end of the week. In tech news, AI is recognizing President-elect Trump so often now in its applications that it has named a phenomenon after him, an actual phenomenon. It's called the President Trump neuron, and it's what AI identifies every time it sees President Donald Trump in artificial intelligence. Assignment Desk Weekend would like to clarify, however, that it should not be confused with the Kamala Harris phenomenon, also equally apparent, where more than $1 billion is lost in a campaign paying profane singers to slap their private parts on stage for $5 million per appearance. Please, please, please do not confuse the Donald Trump neuron with the Kamala Harris moron. And finally, there appears to be some confusion in the world of mostly bald women Assignment Desk Weekend has seen many of them in recent days holding up odd signs that read things like no sex. Just to be really super clear, Assignment Desk Weekend doesn't believe that any of the women holding the signs were in any danger of being misunderstood or ever propositioned. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Calvin McCullough.
Oh, that's good. That's nectar of the demons. Well, no beating around the bush, okay? We lost the 2024 election, but this has been one heaven of a week, okay? I just want to say up front that I'm super proud of our team. I mean, the lies, chaos, the hysterical push to trans everyone's kids and put tampons in the boys' bathroom. We did our best. And unfortunately, God and the Republicans just played a better game out there. So I guess we'll take some questions.
What do you think went wrong there? It seemed like Harrison Walls was the perfect candidate.
Honestly, I could have run a drug parakeet and it wouldn't have made a difference. My Democrat followers will vote for anyone who promises them the right to kill their kids. So the good guys they just wanted it more, I guess. You know, the match was just kind of unfair, okay? It was a little uneven. I mean, it's not on their side. They had the truth, the Constitution, they have prayer, and they have Zachary Levi. You know, the guy from Tangled. And at last I've seen the light. Anyway, I know that we on our side have a lot of talent. Okay, we've got MSNBC, Joy Behar, Rachel Maddow, CNN, crying Jimmy Kimmel. And all those demon-possessed kids on the they-thems that are screaming on TikTok right now. It's, you know, great prospects. A lot of upside coming up through the farm leagues, you know. So,
what are the plans for the Hell franchise moving forward?
Bright future. We'll keep trying to convince everyone that Trump's Hitler. Actually, this is kind of funny. We got Hitler in a special torture chamber right over there. And he hates it when we compare him to Trump. It's funny. He's like, I'm the most evil. See, I'm the Führer. He's just an orange reality star. It's classic. It's classic. One of the few points of joy in my life right now. Anyway, we'll probably just try to keep throwing Trump in jail and stuff and do a few more assassination attempts. Run a last-ditch Hail Mary, pick six, if you know what I mean.
What's the game plan for converting Republicans to your cause?
Well, actually, you know what? We did make some good headway in this arena. We got David French to do that whole evangelicals for Harris thing. So it's It's really hard to say that with a straight face. So getting Christians to vote for a woman who supports baby murder is just like, we have, we have Liz Cheney. I love her. Anyone that's a friend of war is a friend of mine. We'll just keep pushing the woke agenda to the schools to try to brainwash Republicans' kids on TikTok. You know, it's kind of like, we're coming for your children. But for real, we are actually coming for your children.
Any other upcoming plans you can tease?
Well, I mean, actually, in the next 4 years, it's obviously going to be a rebuilding year. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to compete and do a quality product and put it out there on the field every single day. See, we just released another season of Rings of Power, and that's great. So we're putting pronouns everywhere. That's great. Dungeons and Dragons, board games, LinkedIn, which we also created. We got some more Blippy coming out. Nothing woke there, just pain and suffering. We're working on reducing legroom in airplanes. Gosh, excited for that. Well, that's it for now. I got a meeting coming up here about Bitcoin. No idea how it works. So yeah, you guys got to get out of here. Hey, Wormwood, we got that meeting for the Bitcoin thing. We got to clear the room. Can you just release the shark bears, please? Toodles.
And this reminder, friend, if you have not registered for your chance to win the Hello Kitty or the traditional Sugarfina Advent Calendar, your time is running out. Go to sugarfinaholiday.com and register now. Sugarfinaholiday.com. BizTV.com.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. Now, back to That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back from Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us as the aftermath of the election continues to be done. Both sides are trying to learn what they can about how the voter electorate shifted in this race. And there's some significant things to be noted. And you're seeing pollsters and campaign advisors kind of write op-eds and talk about some of those things. One of the significant shifts in the race for president was that of the Latino vote. And here to discuss from the Independent Women's Voice is Judy Pino, who is one of those people that watches these things, and she comments on Spanish language issues for the Independent Women's Voice. I love independent women. We have them on every week. And Judy, it's good to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Kevin. Great to be with you.
How big was the shift? We've kind of heard about it anecdotally, but what do we know now that the votes have been counted?
It really was seismic. For many, many decades, Latinos have slowly been shifting to the right, but Latinos have never gotten the credit for it. This is the first election. Well, we could also say during the George W. election, right, that Latinos also put a dent in the Democrat Party. But since then, we've really been moving towards the right. Why? Because we're conservative at heart. And so really what we saw was historic this time around. Like I said, we really took credit. Trump increased the share of Latino vote nationwide from 32% in the 2020 elections to 45% in 2024. Wow. Men, as we have heard over and over, Trump won Hispanic men by 55%. That's 19 points more than the 36% share he won 4 years earlier. And this one's really important, Kevin, the youth vote, because Latinos are younger. More of them are younger. This is the future. This is the future of the country, and it is the future of the party.
I think what is head scratching for the Democrats, and particularly hard for them to understand, well, there's a lot. They didn't really have a read of what the voters wanted at all. But I think they're having a hard time understanding that he could run on immigration as strongly as he did and get this amount of turnout from domestic Latino voters. And it makes sense to me, but I don't think that the left has figured this out, that Latino citizens of the U.S. see themselves as Americans, and they want strong borders to keep criminals out. And that doesn't change allegiances just because you may have some people coming across the border that identify as Hispanic.
Well, for many years, as we know, they've weaponized immigration, thinking that that is all that Latinos care about. But in reality, what Latinos care about is having a strong economy, being able to start their own business, and security. And what they were seeing in that border, coming through that border, the massive invasion that was happening without any rhyme or reason, the very thing that they were running away from in their home, country, yeah. They were now seeing like here again. Yeah, and honestly, they really understood that this was just not right. This, this wasn't legal. This wasn't lawful, and the country's going to pay for it. And so they are, like you said, they are America. More and more Latinos are integrating into the fabric of our nation, and it can no longer be ignored. They said enough.
Well, and not only did they say enough, they carried that out with votes that are actually going to bring about a lot of change. And I don't know, we can talk a little bit about the cabinet picks and some of the things that the president has done. But one of the things that's going to be indisputable is that he has built a different coalition for the Republican Party than has ever been seen before. And the amount of diversity within that coalition is probably richer and deeper and more broad than any of the
kind of the race pandering that the Democrats have done over the last 5, 6, 7 election cycles, saying you have to vote for us if you're non-white. We're the only ones that get you. Donald Trump changed the Republican Party. Latinos, African Americans, Asians, Jewish, Arabic, they feel heard by the Republicans now.
It really is an incredible movement. The MAGA movement will be very hard to replicate again in the future because it is so unique to President-elect Donald Trump. This is a man who was successful with a beautiful family. I think people look up to that. I think it is the American dream. And for Latinos, to see a man who is strong, to see a man with a successful family, to see a man who was able to go through so much that we've seen him go in these past couple of years, assassination attempts, we've heard this over and over, and still come out strong and still survive. That's the man you want for the job, especially in this day and age. And Kevin, Latinos really are so diverse within themselves, right? Mm-hmm. We come from so many backgrounds, and they're not wedded to any party ideology. They really vote on the issues. And at this time, it really hit their pocketbooks. And like I said, we are getting younger and younger. And the younger generation just doesn't, this is not your grandma's party, right? Like they are now voting on legacy. They're voting on what is impacting me. I can't buy a house. I can't get a car. I can't pay for things that I want. I can't start a family. I mean, it's just really, really the perfect storm of bad policies. And that's what we saw at the voting booth.
I want to dig a little bit more into domestic policy, but I'll do that in a second. I want to ask you about the Latino voter and how they kind of prioritized the issues this go around. Do we know anything from the exit polling about primarily what the drivers of the Latino vote were from either party? What motivated Latinos to vote this time?
Over and over again, we've heard is the economy, which
was kind
Latino,
of the big umbrella issue for everybody across all people groups, but it was a solid number one for them.
Absolutely. And when you hear that statistic about men, Latino men going out in droves, because Latino men are providers. Yeah. They couldn't provide for their families.
Going down the list a bit, where did immigration, where did abortion, where did those school choice, where did women's issues, where did those things rank in terms of how the Latino voter showed up?
Well, the economy, top priority. Immigration, second priority. Education, abortion was like number 4 or 5.
And did it trend pro-life or pro-choice with the Latino vote? Because I think a lot of people misunderstand. I think a lot of at least political strategists misunderstand the Latino voice on the life issue.
Well, obviously, Latinos being conservative and being very religious, Kevin, they are very pro-life.
Yeah.
And pro-family, pro-religion. And so what they saw happening was a complete break from their values, complete disconnection, being ignored, and being taken for granted, really. I think the Democrats really thought that they had the Latino vote in the bag, and they were so out of touch, they didn't really understand what was really hurting and impacting the Latino community. The abortion issue, where you had the pro-choice, was more towards the younger Latinos, and that's something that we need to watch. But I think the education is very important because there's a lot of fear-mongering now regarding, the Republicans and President-elect Trump trying to take those rights away. The Supreme Court has already made that decision. It's up to the states, and President Trump has said that over and over again. I think there needs
which is where voters wanted it to be.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Just a few more minutes with Judy Pino from the Independent Women's Voice, which is another
subdivision of the Independent Women's Forum and organization. They have so many things that they focus on and so many things that they're doing, and we're grateful for all of them that come here and talk to us. One of the things I did, Judy, through the last 4 years was I purposefully had Independent Women's Forum on every single week to talk about the multifaceted impact of how women were viewing their lives. And I think it worked. I think that we had women this go around voting on a wide swath of issues, and the kind of one note pony that Kamala Harris wrote in on of saying, it's about abortion and we've got to get Roe v. Wade codified into federal law. That just didn't seem to materialize in terms of substantive support for her, even in the female vote. Donald Trump did better with women than any Republican in the modern era. And I think it was largely because he was talking to them where they were living. What was your observation after all the dust settled?
Yeah, you hit it on the nose. An independent women's voice, an independent women's forum, like we say, all issues are women's issues. And to just make women about abortion, again, completely disconnected, because we care about so many issues. We care about our retirement. We care about being able to have our jobs. We care about being able to have our businesses, especially Latino women. You know that they are so entrepreneurial. They start businesses way more than any other nationality, but they have so much trouble getting loans and things like that. So we need government out of the way. I think Trump understood that, and of course the whole gender ideology thing, getting men into women's bathrooms, and a big issue for us has been, men in women's sports. It just doesn't jive with the Latino community. And President Trump really hit that hard. He knew that these are the issues that Latinos and Americans, right? All Americans, all of us, Latinos included, really cared about. And that's what drove them towards the right. And it's going to continue to drive them towards the right if the Republicans continue doing or follow the playbook that President Trump followed.
Well, one of the things that he's going to probably take action on quickly is this issue of mass deportation. And I know that the media has done what it can to kind of scaremonger people into thinking that he's going to be knocking on, average Latino families' doors and saying, get out, you're gone. How is that entire issue being interpreted by the people that voted for him? And do you fear that there's going to be some sort of negative repercussion if he follows through on that?
Listen, this is one issue that we can no longer whistle past the graveyard, right? It's an issue that can no longer be ignored, or the ball being passed around back and forth, party to party, using it as a weapon for to garner votes.
I mean, there's 20 million people that are here that weren't there before, and by the way, many of them aren't Hispanic. So, finding the people that have come in the last 4 years, to me, the priority seems to be get the criminals and the people that we know are not healthy for our society. They're the first ones that got to go.
And Latinos, I think, understand that, but we really need to drive that message, because the left is doing a really good job of driving the opposite message. I actually got a phone call from my daughter, who's a 15-year-old high schooler, and she says, "Mommy, my friend wants to ask you a question." And the girl gets on the phone and says, "I hear that President Trump is going to deport people. Who is he going to deport? Is he going to deport my family?" And I said, No. We're not doing that. We are deporting criminals, people who are doing harm to this country, and people who have not, they're not good for society. They're not growing our wealth, are not serving the way that we should serve. So there is concern at all levels, Kevin, and it cannot be ignored. We really do need to counter the narrative of the left on this one.
We're probably going to have our first Latino Secretary of State. We've got a very young cabinet that looks like it's forming quickly. And what I love about the president's cabinet is it kind of looks like America. He's going to have lots of women, lots of people of different backgrounds. They're going to be young, and they're going to be aggressive in what they implement in terms of the America First agenda. And I can only hope that they have as much success with that as possible. Marco Rubio, I think, is going to be a tremendous asset to the State Department, though, and we'll see how he goes. Any final thoughts about where this all heads for the next 2 years?
Listen, President Trump has the momentum behind him. He's got the support. I think he's putting the right people in place, a younger, more dynamic, diverse cabinet that I think that they're ready to rock and roll. I'm especially interested in seeing what Elon Musk is going to bring to the table. That should be interesting. And so I think everybody's excited, Kevin. So I look forward to talking more about this with you.
Yeah, we'll do it. All right, Judy Pino, thank you for your stopping by to see us. We appreciate it, and come on back anytime.
Thanks, Kevin.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Hi, Kevin McCullough. Thank you for being here. It's the most wonderful time. It's my favorite time of the year, man. I'm not kidding you. I love once we get past Halloween. I love Thanksgiving. I love Christmas. I saw something on Instagram this week where this photographer in the Northeast, he loves to take these landscape pictures, and he says, here's our calendar. October 1 through 31st, Halloween, November 1 through 27, Christmas, November 28th, Thanksgiving, November 29th through December 31st, Christmas. And that's how it goes in his house. I'm kind of like that. I got music playing that's pre-Thanksgiving, but I'm certainly taking time out in each.
Are your trees up?
To be thankful. I don't have my tree up yet. No, not yet. But at the end of the day, it is a season of joy, of giving, of gratitude, and of all the wonderful things. And that disembodied voice coming from outside there, let's put him on screen here. It's Todd Chatman from CSI, and he's back with us again. Todd, always appreciate you. And you love the seasons too. You and I have worked together for a long time. So there is something special about this time of year. And when you have the opportunity to take someone's life that has been nothing but death and turn it into something that is joyous and fulfilling and charitable and loved and all the rest of it, like we do with CSI, it is really an amazing thing to witness. And that's why I've asked you to come back and tell us some more stories. We've been on this journey since February of this year, trying to liberate 208 slaves. Specific names. We know exactly who they are. We know where they are. There is another liberation scheduled before the end of the year, which means we could get them home for Christmas. But we have a few dozen left that we have not yet reached. We've had more than 160 liberated, but we want to finish well. We want to get all 208 home for Christmas this year.
Absolutely. And, if you've got a person on your list, and I think we all do, the person who has everything, you cringe every time you have to buy the Christmas gift for them. Well, maybe this year you make a donation in their name, $250, you free a slave, and then just create, on your computer, some sort of certificate and just say, hey, look, for Christmas, we made a donation and you have helped free a human being and change giving them their life back. Or if you just want to do this out of the goodness of your heart on behalf of you and your family, that would be awesome. Of course, your gift is tax deductible. And Kev, we're just so excited. I mean, we've already freed 1,200 slaves this year, women primarily, but some men as well. Children, we're able to affect the release of kids who have been born in slavery. Oftentimes, these women have been raped by their slave owners multiple times, and they get pregnant. And, if we can, of course, we want to keep those families together, those mothers. As a matter of fact, you can imagine this as a parent, if you're a parent. So someone comes to free you and you're like, well, I've got to take my child or my children with me. And we're not always able to negotiate that. And so sometimes women have to make the choice. Well, I'm not going to leave right now. And so we go back to work and try to get the kid. We do have heartbreaking stories of women. We were able to negotiate the freedom maybe for one of her two kids. And so she brings the youngest back with her, but then a child left behind. And so even though it's a beautiful story of freedom and redemption and a new life for these moms that do have to leave some of their family behind, or it could be a parent or a sibling that was maybe captured as well, it's heartbreaking at the same time. So there's a lot of heavy and hard stuff, but it's a beautiful thing to be able to set captives free, people that have known that really thought they would never have their life back. Their identity has been taken from them. They've been abused in every way you can possibly imagine, physically, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally. And so to be able to, again, give them that life back, there's nothing more beautiful. So if you've never given a gift to CSI, maybe you're hearing about this for the first time, I would really just strongly encourage you to do what Kevin's family does, what my wife and I do, and give to CSI, and let's set some more people free.
Yeah, $250 will give a slave its liberation, but beyond that, it will give her everything she needs to start her life over again. And just to Todd's point there that he was making, there is not a slave that we liberate that when they're telling their story to the CSI people, that number one, they are not fully immersed in gratitude and saying thank you to those of you that have helped us find liberation, to get free, to be back. The way that they can put it in their language is sometimes a little choppy to our English ears, but they are so earnest in that thankfulness. And then they quickly add, but please don't stop. Please don't stop until every slave is free. And so that last part kind of haunts those of us that really care about this, because we know that there are several thousand that we still have the opportunity to try to help. But to Todd's point, it is an immensely joyful thing. And I like to put it on a measuring scale, Todd, because when these people were taken into slavery, the abuse, the pain, the sexual hurt, the physical beatings, the verbal assaults, the just horrible treatment by the family members of the slave master, the ruthless and inhumane way that they are treated as cattle. In fact, their cattle is more valuable to them than the lives of these slaves. It's just, all of that pain is so heavy. And so it feels like the scale is very out of proportion. But when CSI finds them and brings them home, you start to see the scale go in the other direction. And for the pain and the darkness and the hurt and the kind of hopelessness that they encounter, the joy and the anticipation and the gratitude and the inexplicable happiness that they have on the other end of it is equally intense. 208 are what we've known that we could get liberated for our efforts right here. And we have at least 3 or 4 dozen of those left to go. And for those of you that have already given, and that means 160 or so plus have been liberated, thank you. You've affected that joy. That sunshine is being spread. That happiness is being felt. It's the ones that we haven't gotten to yet that I'm concerned about. 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010. Call and make that gift. It's $250 to liberate one slave. How many slaves, how many lives would you like to touch? 888-342-1010, or go to bringherhome.org online. Bringherhome.org, bringherhome.org, or 888-342-1010. Please go right now.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.